thing about depending on hormones, just in a very unlikely situation where, say, I mean, something really ridiculous like being stranded on a desert island and you could not get any hormones at all.
Yes.
But you hadn't had your ovaries removed. You still had and you couldn't take it. Would you
Would periods
die?
resume?
Or would you not periods resume? But would you be ill? Would you?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
No, you wouldn't be ill. I think you would be disappointed.
But
I don't think you'd be ill.
no, yeah. That's what
and I
mean.
think there would be longer term risks, yes. And you might have hot flushes, as I mentioned, and get dry vagina and things like that. It's uncomfortable. I know you think, well, I don't care about that, but it's uncomfortable, and you get the skin becomes all of the skin around there, the introitus, the kind of entry into the vagina, and the vagina itself becomes very atrophic. It needs it to be normal. Without it, it shrinks down and it becomes dry, and the function goes away, and the vagina gets small, and it becomes more difficult to do everything. And it's comfort. It's not anything to do with I don't care about that because I wouldn't be using it. It's just comfort.
Okay. Yeah, another question about voice. What voice changes with testosterone, and would it? Because it's quite a personal question, really, for me, because I'm a singer, and if I took testosterone, what kind of effect would it have on my voice? Would I still be able to sing? How would it affect my range, my tonal range? Singing?
What do you sing now?
Well, mostly things that are sung by men, like Radiohead, Coldplay.
Well, like mezzo or soprano.
I don't know.
It's difficult to say because most of these pop stars sing in soprano or mezzo. It's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, not
that's
pop
because
stars.
they're usually this tall. I mean,
I'm not pop stars. I listen to
a bit more rock.
More
Rock.
Radiohead.
It would
Coldplay
change
things.
it. It would
Yeah,
really
I know,
change it.
but
it's
would
hard.
it-
It's hard to say. I mean,
Because-
Aled Jones is still singing now, isn't he?
Who?
Aled Jones, the kind of a famous
Yeah.
boy soprano, who's still singing now. It's very unusual.
Oh yeah, I know.
Usually the
Yeah.
voice breaks and so does the career. That's it. You've got no guarantee
Oh, well, I'm
that
not-
a perfect prepubescent
No, I'm
voice
not.
will.
No, it's
Don't
not.
know.
It's not. I'm not a soprano singer or anything. I'm not a choir player or anything.
It
I'm not.
would-
I sing rock. I sing.
It's
stuff
likely
like Smith, stuff
to
like-
cause some problems, I would say.
because it's
It's unpredictable.
there are
Enhance your voice.
Well, yes, but it's unpredictable.
because there are most of the bands that I listen to do have male singers, and like a lot of the time I do have to, if I'm playing a song, I have to put a capo on my guitar and play it like a few like notes higher, a few tones higher, so I can sing low enough.
Right.
And
It may not come down uniformly. It may not just come down so you can leave it off. You might find that you do a good line in yodeling when you don't mean to, and things like that, as you do when you're
becomes
going through
unstable.
puberty. But yeah, it becomes a bit unstable.
Yeah.
Can't predict it. Can't predict it. Sorry.
okay, my last question is: will hormones make me grow in height? Which is kind of for
No.
our friend.
Are you still growing?
Yeah. Well, I mean, our friend asked a question as well, but yeah, I'm.
You're pretty. I think the answer is no, really. If we're going to do any kind of manipulations that change people's height, we really need to do it before the age of about 8. What we give with
Wow.
one hand, we take with the other. So if we've got a child, for instance, who's growth hormone deficient, and growth hormone makes you grow, the trauma of injections actually stunts you, and the injections make you grow. So between the two of them, you end up with an extra inch or two, and you really don't get anywhere. And at your age, really, there'd be no difference at all. You do get a bit more spinal growth if you take male hormone. That's why the
At any
cartoon. No, I mean you're fused really. You can't get once you're in late puberty. We couldn't really make people grow. It's before
So what's the spinal
puberty.
growth thing? Sorry, I've never.
Testosterone, male hormone is really responsible for spinal growth, and growth hormone is really responsible for limb growth. So the giants in the world, the real giants, like the Alton giants and people like
My
that,
personal here.
that one, absolutely, are still prepubescent. What's happened is they've got a pituitary tumour making too much growth hormone, but that pituitary tumour has also crushed the cells that normally make the testes operate. So he has never gone through puberty. So his mum really loves him. He's still a lovely boy because he is still a lovely boy. He's still a prepubescent.
Oh, I saw that documentary on TV.
He's really, really tall, and that's why it's very rare. You need these two things. You need a pituitary tumour in childhood secreting lots of growth hormone, which must also grow big enough to block formation of that. So if you look at the cartoon of a lumberjack, is always a very short guy with unbelievably broad shoulders, and his arse is almost on the floor with his little itsy witsy legs, isn't it? That's always the cartoon, and that's exactly right. Buckets of male hormone made him fuse very early in puberty, so there's very little short limbs, but an enormously long back because of male hormonal growth.
And that's why fashion is jeans, boys wear jeans very low.
I
long.
think that's something else. That's just bizarre. I mean, all our medical students are
Yeah.
very unflattering.
I don't know why. 'Cause I think it's ugly. I do have most of my close friends who are guys don't do it because they think it's ugly as
It
well.
is
So.
Well,
But if you look at people who've gone through a very late puberty, they'll tend to be quite long, tall, gangly people with a very high waist and a short back, if you see what I mean. So that's what we call a unicoid kind of appearance, if you see what I mean. So it's kind of that way around. And you can see couples walking along like that sometimes with an androgynous bloke and a unicoid woman. And she is slightly shorter than he is, but his bum is lower than hers.
Yeah.
And Tesco's is a very good place for looking at
Tesco's.
people. I recommend Tesco's.
not Sainsbury's or...
No, because they're all middle class people who are hurrying around with their middle class children, and you can't see anything. But at Tesco's, it's live and let live, and everyone's kind
Brilliant.
of tattooed
Yeah,
and
they
slouched around.
androgynous-
Well, everyone in Glastonbury's tattooed.
Exactly, there you are.
Unicoid woman. Unicoid.
That's really interesting.
That's why they're different shapes.
This question, we understand that testosterone increases clitoral size. Is there any research, probably not, into the average size for an F2M phallus?
Yes, there is.
A little bit. Yeah.
There is some research from they've got 270, I think, around that number of females to males in this Dutch clinic, and I think the average is about 4 centimeters. I think so, or between 4 and 7 centimeters it might be, but it's something like that. I'm sorry, I have got the data somewhere.
Is that data widely available?
It is available. Yes, I can give you the reference.
Can you? No.
Yeah. I think.
Should we do it at the end?
Well, maybe at the end if it's not.
Yeah,
to
I
hand.
can give you the reference. Well, I'll give you a copy of this article if you like.
Yeah.
Hang on a minute. I'll give you. That's what I'll do. Hang on a minute. I'll give you that.
I'm wondering if that 4 or 7 is just there or aroused, because it makes quite a bit of difference. Well, it's good to ask these questions.
I don't
isn't
know.
it?
It is a very good question. I don't think it makes a huge amount of difference, but it might do.
Mm.
Let me ask. It was published. Clean Endo. When was that? 1990s. Back a bit. Oh, Clean Endo. Here we go. Transsexual. I'll print it out for you. File corrected.
Oh, there'll be a lot of interest in that. Oh, good.
Well, it's available. You can get it. You can get it on the internet.
Yeah,
PubMed.
I would imagine you can. The next question's really good.
Can't wait.
How are we doing for time?
And we're about 10 minutes away. I think.
It's fine. It's fine.
You sure? Yeah.
As long as
We've
it
only
takes
got
to
like.
me.
And the battery's
2
quite
minutes.
low as well.
Is it? Can't we plug you in? Can't we? Or haven't you got
Will you be
the?
plugged in?
Yeah, we can plug in.
Yeah. Okay.
What, if any, is the relationship between a GP, psychiatrist, and an endocrinologist when treating a trans person? Do your professional frameworks for understanding gender and sex overlap? If so, how? A GP, a psychiatrist, and an endocrinologist.
It's a very good question. I mean, I think in the really good clinics, the really professional clinics, I mean, mine's pathetic here, it's just me. You know, we did have a psychiatrist at once, but it's really no good. And if you look at the Harry Benjamin criteria, they say, if you're going to run one of these clinics, you need 2 psychiatrists, a psychologist, you need a rabbi, you need a priest, you need, literally...
Seriously?
You need, yeah.
Why do you need a rabbi and a priest?
Well, you need, not a priest, what is it, a Catholic.
Yeah.
You need people of these various faiths. I
Why
don't
do
know.
you need people
You
very
need-
faith? That's really
You
strange.
need an
It was written in the
endocrinologist, you need
1960s.
somebody from each, you need the surgeons, you need a really good multidisciplinary clinic where the patient can go and get all of the right information and all of the right views and all of the right things to make everybody happy.
They wouldn't have to talk to a priest or anything, would they? if they
Not
wanted to?
necessarily, but for some people there are these issues, and I think what they're basically saying is, they'll need a social worker and all this. You've got all these issues, and you
So-
need to address them all.
If you're treating a trans person now, what would your relationship to their psychiatrists and their GP be?
Well, what we do is whenever we write, basically the patient is owned by the GP.
Right.
We see the patient at the request of the GP and on the GP's behalf. The GP pays for the consult indirectly now because of the changes that the government have made, so the GP actually pays for it. and we then liaise with the surgeon, with everybody else, but the surgeons, and when we transfer them to surgical services, if it's in another trust as it is with us, we can't do it. I would recommend to the GP that that's what needs to be done, and the GP would then have to write to the surgeon because the funding streams drive it that way round. Basically, the GP is saying, look, I'm a generalist, I deal with everything, I've got my interest and I deal with these things particularly well. The GPs around here are fantastic, they're just fantastic. But this is a super specialist thing that I've got some interest in and I don't know what I'm doing. And so a GP is really going to be a bit at sea and worried that they're going to be poisoning people. So I'm advising the GP.
Right.
And then we all of the letters that we write to each other are copied to everybody. And quite often we copy the letters to the patient themselves so that the patient's got it. And whenever they go, they can say, well, look here. You know, for the gender forms, for changing the birth certificate and all, for all of those things, it's useful for them. So we try and keep everybody informed.
It's quite a tight communication between.
It's very difficult. On the one hand, you think, oh, it's confidential, it's very patient confidential, we shouldn't be telling anybody. And on the other hand, you're trying to help, and there's always this kind of dichotomy of what we're allowed to do, what can we get in trouble for. I mean, we can always be, got into terrible trouble if people wish to, but we just hope that we're doing the right thing. 4 to 4.5 centimetres, which is nothing really. It can just get in the way. I think you think, oh, anything is better than nothing, but actually it can be quite difficult. And it just can be painful or sore or get in the way, not be a useful structure necessarily. So it can be, it's difficult to know.
Okay,
Why is it printing out loads of paper?
that's the article.
That's the article.
Is that how long it is?
No, it's a few pages. Yeah.
It's
not that long.
Look how many pages there are.
Well, it's double spaced because of, don't worry, it's got very few words in it. Don't panic.
Oh God.
Okay, that's our next question.
I can read it all on.
Yeah, we're
Right.
rolling.
Okay. Van Kesteren is the person. Van Kesteren is the person. Don't worry, it'll be one of the references to on this. It will be his.
Great. Thank you for that.
So it'll have all the literature that you need and all the stuff that's available, which isn't very much.
Oh, that's really useful.
I mean, a lot of
Yeah.
stuff that comes out of Charing Cross Clinics was run by Richard Green,
Yeah.
Professor Green, and the others don't really write very much,
Yeah.
which is a shame really, because it's almost a duty. If you're dealing with something quite rare, and you can help people with that knowledge, it's quite important to be able to actually pass it on.
Document everything.
Document. I mean, maybe they've tried and maybe it's just not been accepted because it's just, statistically a bit void,
And I
Uh,
suppose funding for it comes in then because you would take up your time by writing these.
Funding is always a real issue. And I'm a basic scientist, so I do, work with animals and things, I'm afraid. That's what we do. And funding is just forever troublesome. Getting grants is very difficult. If I go to anybody and say, look, I'd like $250,000, please, for this study, they'll go, no. But then almost anybody who asks for $250,000 is going to say, no.
Okay, so there's this question: what is the relationship between theories of hormones and theories of brain sex? Does endocrinology endorse brain sex theories? Brain sex.
We had, we had a talk by.
You had a long talk by,
Scientists.
yes.
The thing, I can say it. I can say the entire thing. Central subdivision of the bed nucleus of the stria terminalis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey.
It took me a very long time to
Well
learn that,
done.
reading it over and over.
It's very difficult. All I can say is there's two pieces of data which make me think that there is a relationship between your endocrine status in very, very early childhood or in utero and how you turn out. One of them is that there's data that you're more likely to be gay a male homosexual, if you have two older male siblings. And this is nothing to do with transsexualism, but it implies that there's some kind of conditioning of the uterus, perhaps, that can change the sexual orientation of a fetus during development. And we can't really think of another reason why that should be so. The other piece,
I have two older brothers,
do you?
but I don't like guys. So.
Exactly, but it's not. But that's a sexual thing, which has nothing to do with it. The other really interesting thing I think is that if you get a rat pup, a little baby rat, within a certain time of birth, and you expose it to male hormone, you give it an injection of male hormone, even though that hormone is cleared within hours and gets out of its system, it will always behave as a male for the rest of its life. Its responses will be male, its behaviour is male, it will always mount other females.
What
And
animal
it's
is this?
a rat.
When's that injected, sorry?
Very early, just after
Moments
it.
after birth.
Not moments after birth, but within a certain period of birth. Not quite sure what it is, but a few days or something. And within that time, you can completely alter its perception of the sex that it is, which I think is a very interesting
It
thing.
is, but you're not injecting babies with other hormones.
No, but if you have testosterone, for example, a burst of it while you're in the womb as a fetus.
And how
That's
would-
the
How could that happen?
Yeah.
Well, we don't know. But but the real issue is, does it matter? Does the endocrine milieu, the kind of endocrine status that the baby is being swashed about with, actually have an effect? And you can say, well, there are models where indeed it does have an effect. So perhaps we then have to look at the endocrine status of people and see if it's different. As far as sex-determined regions of the brain, there are several of these. It's very difficult. And there are some bits that are supposed to be more one thing or the other, but it's very kind of partisan reporting. I think I've mentioned it in this article, and I can show you some data about it, but I find it a little bit difficult to believe. The brain bank, there's a brain bank in Holland. They've got a huge number of brains that they got all pickled somewhere, and these issues can arise, and they can find people who are gay who this has happened, and kind of hook them all out. There aren't enough to really go on, because you need age-matched things, and they're usually people who've died from AIDS. They're young people who've died from AIDS, and AIDS does enormous things to brains, and there's an AIDS dementing illness, and you died from it, you're not normal. You need people who've been run over by cars. You need a lot of people dying unexpectedly of unrelated things. So we need thousands of young people, thousands of young transsexuals, gays and straights and normal heterosexuals. We need them all to die simultaneously.
Dying in rock climbing
of
accidents.
Well, exactly, but somehow not injuring their brain at all, which is usually the reason that they die. And it's very difficult to get that information
You
together.
get a group of like a queer climbing club and set off an avalanche. Make sure they're all wearing helmets first.
One could, but I think that the issue would be over altogether. Nobody would be
We'll cut
interested.
that out.
But
Brilliant.
it's very difficult.
Yeah,
And
I'll
then
probably be a member of it.
Then you think to yourself, well, what use is it? Why are people so intent on knowing this? In a way, I think I don't know, you look at the genome and you think this is what's controlling me. If you look at the twin studies, we've got studies of identical twins who happen to have been separated very near birth and brought up in entirely different social circumstances. And you say, well, how different are they? And you say, well, this is nurtured some way, it's epigenetic, it's something in the environment doing it that's changing the way genes are expressing. And that's fascinating, because you can say, I know that the genome fundamentally is not the issue, it cannot be the genome, and they are remarkably similar. I mean, the amount of alcohol you drink, your likelihood to be alcoholic is a bit genetic.
Yeah,
Even the political party that you vote for is slightly controlled by your genome. So it's amazing, and it's slightly worrisome. We want to be individuals. We want to say, I've got self-determination. I am me. You don't want to know that if there were 10 of you identifying, you would be the same, making the same ridiculous gesture on film, and saying the same terrible things of it, and would be that indiscreet. But maybe we would be, and it's interesting and a little upsetting at the same time. And I don't know what use people will make of that. I think there are some desperate people who are desperate to say, it isn't me, it's my makeup, it's in there, I'm like this because of this. And there's a group of people who are desperate to show that it's not that, and it's very political.
It's like a human rights agenda, it seems.
Yes,
but
it's just different. And I don't see that it really matters. We're a long way away from really being able to get brains and say this is how it's working. We're getting there. We've got PET scanning now, proton emission tomography, we've got functional MRI scans, we've got some wonderful things, and we can get people to think about certain things and show little areas of the brain lighting up. But that's very clumpy. If you think how a brain works, and we just say, well, this bit's kind of, it's really a bit, that's about it.
Wow.
You are who you are, and when you say this is how you are, that's how you are. We don't really, I find it very hard to believe that anybody would wish to go through what you all go through unless, you're very sincere and feel it would help. That's how much I know. There's lots of
Great.
lots of psychiatric opinions saying there's all these diagnoses. It's tough out there.
Found
On that note,